scheduled. The broadcast is live. So here we are. This is Coach Arnie with CC Schatz over at WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, Radio, TV, and Podcast, Internet Talk Network, Health, Love, and Life Show. And I am here. Let me make sure this is turned off. And we're going to be talking about mindset today. It's funny that in my 40 years of teaching and coaching that, the term mindset has been around, but it hasn't, in that it used to be just the way you thought. Somebody was positive or somebody was negative, and then you've almost had a whole field of psychology that has been developed on mindset. And probably a lot of it is because of coaches and individuals became interested in how I can develop, we'll just call it a better psychology. I mean, Tony Robbins has mentioned that term many times that I've known him over the last almost 25 years, or longer, but having a better psychology. So a mindset, which is a component of psychology, is how we think. So if you're somebody that, I've always been a risk taker. I don't know why. I didn't read a book on psychology. I just had this curiosity and this willingness to jump. And it wasn't always there. I mean, I think it was there when I was young, very young. And then there was some fear that happens to you, whether it's asking a girl out on a date, or, jumping on the roller coaster or whatever it might be. And there are certain things that I became fearful of. And there were certain things that I jumped. And once I discovered, I'll just use a quick story about jumping. And I don't think I've told this story before, but when I was I don't think I was even in high school yet. I might have been. We used to go climbing my buddy's roof and jump off the roof into the swimming pool. And we would do it all day long, and just because there's nothing better to do in Phoenix, Arizona when it's 115 degrees out, then goof around in the pool. We didn't have video games back then. Actually, we did. I think the game was called Pong. So in the 70s, so you go in and hit this ball back and forth for about 10 minutes until you got bored, and then you went back out to the swimming pool. But either way, I had gotten hurt, and everybody kept saying it was because I was jumping off a roof. We never really knew, but I developed an insecurity about jumping off of heights into a pool. It was the weirdest thing. I mean, it was it was a fear, which is insecurity, because of a perception that I was injured. I was hurt. Was that the cause of it? No one ever knew. But enough people told me that I believed it. And I believed it for a number of years. I mean, I literally did not jump off of things into swimming pools for probably 5 years. I mean, and that's all I ever did. Used to do flips off of boards and you name it. And it came to a head one day. I was an assistant coach to a baseball team in the summer, a little league team. And I had just graduated from high school. So I was helping my coach a team. And we had taken them on a trip. I think the season I don't think it was over yet. It was maybe halfway through. These were the days when you used to really play baseball in the summer. Now they don't seem to do anything in the summer. So we took them up to a very famous watering, or it was kind of like a river, but it was like a jumping hole. And now it's very commercialized. But back then it was not. It was just kind of a pretty rustic, And so we took our guys up there, and there were some other people, families camping, picnicking, and it was it was nice. And they had different areas where you could jump off these cliffs into the water. That didn't bother me because I wasn't going to jump off a cliff. Remember, I had a fear. I had a phobia. I had developed a negative mindset that I didn't need to do that. So lo and behold, it didn't take long before a lot of the guys were up on this one ledge jumping off. And it wasn't that high, but to me, it looked like the Empire State Building. So before long, all the young kids were screaming at Coach Arnie to jump. I go, nah, don't worry about it. I'm not going to jump. You guys go have fun. I'm over here just hanging with the other people that don't jump. Well, lo and behold, they cajoled me enough that I got up there. I was still young. I was still had some zip, and I got up there, and boy, I tell you, I stared there. It seemed like forever. Seemed like I stared at that thing forever. And finally, I just jumped. And it was one of the scariest things I ever did in my life. And a half second later, I'm in this cold water thinking, oh my God, I didn't die. It had been almost 5 years. I didn't die. So I thought, do it again. And I did it again. I don't know how many times more I did it. But not only did I jump off that one cliff quite a few times, but I jumped off of the bigger cliff another 40 times. 40. One day? What's wrong with me? Talk about massive action. Talk about changing your mindset. That's what that type of action will do. I've told the story many times here about fear, and when you face a tiger in the jungle, which obviously is a metaphor for fear, and how when you see that tiger, and I've heard it, I was just watching a show actually earlier, and the guy says, he was telling a story to a young man, and he told him, stop running. And even though if you watch the show, the young guy had a good reason for running, but he said, stop running and the fear will go away. And I first thing I thought about was the story I tell about the tiger in the jungle. Because fear is a tiger. And if we run from it, it will catch you and it will eat you. The fear of jumping off a cliff or a roof had eaten me for 5 years, literally eaten me alive, where I avoided any places, pools, parties where people were jumping off of diving boards, so all the stuff that I used to do. And that tiger had eaten my lunch. Literally. And that day when I jumped off altogether about 60 times, no one knew my fear. But driving home that day with one of the other coaches and some of the guys, and all we talked about was jumping off those dang cliffs. It was one of the greatest memories of my life. It was just amazing. And I think I came home and had to go to work. It's all I could think about, how I beat back that fear, how I stared the tiger in the eyes. Because that's the only choice we got. is to stare the tiger in the eyes. Because now, let's be honest. You've heard me say this before. Once you stop, stare the tiger in the eye, now you put the choice on the tiger. Now, if I would have fallen into that river, that jumping hole and hit a rock, the tiger would have eaten me, right? But I would have jumped. But I didn't. So the tiger walked away, because the tiger will make a choice to walk away if the tiger's not hungry. And of course, that's most of the time, isn't it? You know, I'm constantly talking to a client of mine, and he'll tell me stories that he thinks about because he has such bad anxiety, which was fear of what could happen. And I'll listen to him for a couple of minutes, and I'll go, "That's not going to happen, is it?" He goes, "Probably not." I said, "So why waste your time thinking about it?" So when we've had a situation like I had when I got hurt and was convinced that it was from jumping, the longer you go not dealing with the fear, the bigger and badder the tiger becomes. And it makes it a lot harder to jump. Makes it a lot harder to stare the tiger in the eye, because before you know it, it's super tiger. So was that a great lesson for me? Yes, because it was part of my changing of my mindset that began probably at age 18, 19. I mean, I always had a great positive mindset as an athlete, as a student. I still had my insecurities like every young guy. But I learned something that day that I could control. I could control my psychology. I could control the way I thought. Do I always do it? No, not even at age 61. There's still times that I don't do it and kick myself in the fanny for not. But I know. I mean, even as a follow-up to that story, we went back at the end of the year, that same summer, to celebrate having a great year. And myself and another coach and one of the other athletes, we ended up jumping over 100 times off these massive cliffs. 40 years later, we've still told that story. 40 years. And that's developing that mindset. You know, another time, I'd never been good at rides at the fair. I mean, even when I got married, I'd go to the fair, and I didn't want to ride these rides for whatever reason. I don't even know where this one came from, this phobia, fear, mindset. I had no idea where it even came from. So I remember on my first trip to New York, we had taken my daughter for a dance competition. And we went to Coney Island. And I think I had seen something on TV where they had the top 10 roller coasters in the world, wooden roller coasters, I think. And I had been to different amusement parks and just avoided rides. My wife loved them. And for whatever reason, I decided, because my daughter was my youngest, I said, you know, I'm going to ride Cyclone. I think that's the name of them. I should quickly Google them. But and to prove to me and to her that I wasn't afraid of a roller coaster. So we got on that sucker. And we got right on the front. First car. And of course, I didn't tell her I was scared to death. But we rode that thing, and I was afraid. I was scared to death. And then I wrote it again. And then I wrote it again. And I stared the tiger in the eye again. The ability to change your mindset, your psychology, how you think is possible by taking action. By taking action. Now, some people go the other way and they only choose things that support their psychology. So by doing things where they don't take a risk, where they don't jump, they can develop their own mindset of, see, I didn't do that. I didn't take a risk. I didn't spend the money. I didn't ask the girl on the date, so I didn't get told no. I didn't jump off the cliff, so I didn't get hurt. So you develop a mindset of being risk averse. And there's a lot of people that do that. And over time, they don't try anything new. They eat the same food. I've been guilty of that. Or they wear the same clothes. They wear their hair the same. They live in the same town. They don't do anything that requires risk. And then they develop a mindset around all that, a way to think. And it supports their choice. And for them, it's very normal. If you were to bring up fear, they wouldn't think for half a second that it was fear. It's just the way they thought. So for me, I think me jumping off that cliff as an 18, 19-year-old young man changed my mindset, changed my psychology, so that I began taking bigger and bigger and bigger risk until it became just something that I did and people talked about. And so sometimes I remember, I'm going to tell a story here right when we get back. We're going to take. All right. No, the story I was going to tell you is when I had closed my clinic. And it was a tough time. It was a tough time in my life. About not 10 years ago, but after I'd closed it and was really struggling with my mindset, because when you've been doing something for so long, and I even did a workshop. I did a workshop in the office next to my clinic, and I titled it, "Don't Wait Till You're 50 to Get You Kicked in the Teeth. It hurts a lot more." And the mindset, the psychology of that talk was, take some chances when you're young. Get kicked around a little bit. Do some sampling. Whether it's relationships or business or something, traveling. Make some mistakes. Well, even though I had been taking risks, I was pretty successful. Yeah. I never thought, 35 years ago, 40 years ago to screw up on purpose. I mean, when I was jumping off the cliff, it was just, I got to do this. And then you do it again. And then, coaching, you're doing certain things, and the way you talk to people, do certain things, and talk to the girls and whatever it might be. But I never thought of, I'm going to try to screw up on purpose. I hadn't read anything like that. It was all kind of new. This underground coaching and mindset training, psychology. I was always interested in it, especially as a coach. And as an athlete. to develop that winner's edge was that the edge was always the psychology. And so so I won. I think the mindset I had was if I try it, it'll work. I mean, I remember when I quit teaching. I just quit and figure stuff out and piece things together, hustled, and things worked out. But it was big risks. Those are big swings, especially when you have a family. Started a couple companies, and you just do things, just taking big swings, swings that most people would never do, and it worked. And then it keeps building year after year. You tried more, and you try more, and you try more. Well, at some point, we all lose. At some point, we all lose, but doesn't mean you're a loser. It means you just lost. And what'd you learn from it? Well, I took a really big cut. And for the first time, I lost. And that was about 10 years ago. Yeah. And it didn't feel good, especially if you have 20, 30 years of wins behind you. It doesn't feel good, which is why in my talk I said, take some chances. It's so good for you. It's so good for you to take some chances and lose. It's okay to lose. It's okay to lose the girl. It's okay to lose the job. It's okay to go bankrupt. It's okay. Because what you learn from that, you will never be able to pay enough in college from what you're going to learn from taking chances like that. You will never, ever get in a course. They don't teach this stuff. You do it by living. That's why one of the things that when I talk to people about coaches and stuff, it's one thing to hire a young coach to in life coaching, not so much athletics, but in life coaching. If that coach has a specific skill that they can teach you, how to build a website, how to sell a certain product, they've done it, and they can walk you through it and teach it, that's beautiful. But in general, to really help people, you've got to live a little bit in your life. You got to live a little bit. You got to get kicked around a little bit. You got to get kicked around and figure stuff out. That's why in professional sports, and I knew this almost 40 years ago when I first started coaching. I figured this out myself. That great coaches were very, very rarely great athletes. Think about that for a second. Look around at professional sports, even collegiate sports. Very few times is the coach, the best coach, was he or she the best athlete? Very few. And I figured it out one day, because I wasn't always the best athlete. I was pretty good. It's because the people that were pretty good, they worked really hard. They worked really hard because things didn't come that easy to them. And they had to figure things out. They had to figure things out. They had to develop a different kind of a mindset, maybe more of a mindset of hard work. Okay, whereas the great athlete, things just came easy. Didn't mean they didn't work hard, but things came easy. And they had a hard time understanding why an average person struggled. And I've seen it, especially as a coach. I've seen working with really high level athletes, and they got very frustrated with their teammates because things didn't come easy to them and they struggled. They struggled. And so they created this kind of a situation where they didn't understand each other. They, in some great athletes, almost become aloof. They separate themselves away because the other people in the team just don't understand them. They become eccentric. I mean, it's interesting if you are a basketball fan in over the last few months. I think they ended a month or so ago. I think it was ESPN. ESPN had this big, long, couple month series on the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan. And I haven't seen it. I've just heard enough about it that Michael was so intense because of who he was, how he was built mentally, physically, emotionally, even spiritually, that he didn't understand the other guys on the team. He only knew one way to do something. His way. Who's going to argue? Best player in the world. So why not just do it his way? But not everybody can do that. At least not for a long time span. So that's why those things will run their course, because they just wear people out. That kind of intensity, that kind of mindset will wear people out around them. And you probably have been around people like that. I mean, I know I have, and I know that I've probably done that to people too. Because when it was funny. Well, long story, but I'm not going on a trip right now that I had scheduled to the Grand Canyon with four other guys that I only know two of them, and we met on a mountain where I screwed up, and they helped me, and we became friends. And the opportunity came to do the Grand Canyon, except I can't do it for a multitude of reasons. And so I've been on a couple calls with them because I want to lend my expertise to helping them. That's the coach side of me. And the ego side of me had to kind of take a back seat, because instead of being upset by it, I've become obsessed about helping them. And to me, that's a growth thing. It's a growth thing. It's Coach Arnie growing and not being bitter, because I know that I'll go again and again and again and again. Will I go with these guys again? I don't know. My fear for them is I want them to have a great time. So they'll go back. So, so yeah, I mean, just the idea of dealing with life when it doesn't go your way. And great athletes have a hard time with that. And they get frustrated when things don't go their way. And they'll drive their teammates crazy because their intensity is so high. And so where I was going with that story, I was helping a friend of mine who's coaching another gentleman who's my age. And I told him that I wasn't going on this trip. And we had a great conversation about what he's doing and kind of training he's doing. And we talked for probably 20 minutes. And then I talked to my friend who's coaching him. And he goes, yeah, I was talking to Mark. And Mark said, yeah, Arnie is intense. And here's why. Whether I'm helping you, or I'm doing it with you, or I'm doing it without you. If it's something I want to do, I'm intense. And part of me that has driven me to do big things solo on my own. Would I have rather had people there? Absolutely. But when you're so intense, when you're so excited about doing something, sometimes you just got to go. Sometimes you just got to go. Because one of the things that I've learned in my life is sometimes when you don't jump, you miss the opportunity. And taking that risk is worth it. It's a risk. Because something bad can happen. You can go bankrupt. You could lose the girl. Get hurt. Bad stuff can happen. But the upside, it's how you look at how your brain looks at things. What kind of mindset do you have? So if you've developed a mindset over the years like I have, that but I could get the girl. I could be the hero. I could set a record. I'd get all the cheers. I could show these guys how to have the greatest adventure of their life. See, those are the upsides. Those are the things that could happen. Will they? I don't know. Because life is funny, huh? If somebody would have told me 10 years ago, let's see, 11, 12 years ago, that I would have gone belly up, I would have laughed you in the face. I laughed you in the face, man. Are you kidding me? I don't lose. I don't lose. See, we don't know. That's why risk. Why do you think Vegas is so popular? It's not because everybody's winning. More people lose than win by a long shot. It's the idea of what could happen. What if? What if I win? What if I go to the mountaintop? What if I do it? What's going to happen? What are people going to say? It's that what if. It's that opportunity to do certain things that few people will try. It's that opportunity to start the business, pull the trigger, ask the girl out on the date, It's that potential. That potential for that amazing thought that comes into your head. That what if thought. That thought that gives you the biggest smile that you can ever imagine. If you could pull it off. If you could pull it off. If you could pull it off, because, and I'm not saying, it's not like, we're not talking about playing the lottery, guys. That doesn't take any skill. That takes $1. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, did you do your preparation? Did you do your training? Did you do your studying? Do your homework? Did you talk to people? Did you pull all the things you need to pull together to make that decision go? I had to make a decision just recently to not go because it wouldn't have been smart. Believe me, I've done enough dumb things to know when it's really dumb. You know, I was talking to one of my coaches the other day, and I said, you don't even really know me. You've only known me for a few years. 10 years ago, I would have told you to get out of the way. See? It's called ego. It's controlling that. That's experience. That's the 22-year-old life coach versus the 60-year-old life coach. That's the guy that says, go for it. That's the guy saying, did you do your preparation? There's a difference. Okay? There's a difference. That's the difference between having a contingency plan and having no plan. And believe me, I've done both. I've jumped without a net. But you can't always jump with a net. You got to know what was the old song? Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And that comes with experience. Comes with experience. Because you can't always go for it. Michael Jordan did miss. Right? He did miss. Now, he won every time he got to the finals. But he did miss. Okay? Tom Brady doesn't win every Super Bowl. He misses. And that's just the way life works. One of the drills when I do date coaching that I have, especially young guys do, when the malls were up and going and a little busy, I'd have them go to the mall and just hang out by the escalator and just ask young ladies to have coffee. Hey, would you like to have a cup of coffee? 90% of the time, they think he's nuts. And if he's not careful, a security guard will chase him away. But maybe 1 out of 100. Somebody might say, sure. Want to go to Starbucks? Yeah, come on. Buy you a cup of coffee. So, but in the meantime, he's learned that 99 no's don't mean a damn thing if you can get one yes. And that's what you learn by getting kicked in the teeth. But if you never learn what it feels like to get kicked in the teeth, then when you do get that no, it can be devastating. It can be brutally devastating. And that's why most people don't like to go in business, because of the stories they hear of people that put their money on the line and they could lose it all because they hear all the stories. 99% of the businesses go out of business. 9 out of 10 businesses don't make it past 2 years. You hear all that. You hear all this stuff. and their in-laws and their uncles and everybody's saying, hey, don't do that. You're going to lose all your money, man. It's kind of like how they catch crabs up in New England. You got your big crab basket or crab bucket. Go out crabbing, you find a crab, throw it in a bucket, put a lid on it. You better. If you don't put a lid on it, that crab's going to try to get away. So what do you got to do? It's going to be a hassle. Open that lid, throwing it back in. No, it's easy. Just go get yourself another crab. Yeah. And you're thinking, what the hell are you talking about, Coach Arnie? What I'm talking about is when you throw two crabs in there, one of the crab tries to get out, the other one reaches up, pulls it down. And you go, what? Why wouldn't they help each other out? You know why? Because they're like people. If they see you doing something that's risky, jumping off a cliff, riding a roller coaster, quitting your job, starting a business, asking a girl out on the date, they're going to tell you that's stupid. They're going to try to pull you down. They're going to try to pull you down. I guarantee everybody listening right now has had that happen to them. You've thought about doing something, and people around you that you love and care about thought you were the dumbest person in the world for trying that. Because they had developed a negative mindset while you were trying to develop a positive mindset, a risk-taking mindset, a growth mindset, a mindset that says you can do it. And all you got to do is learn how to separate yourself out from the other crabs. Don't hang around them. Hang around people that encourage you, that love you, that understand you, that are weird like you. It's so much fun when you hang around weirdos like yourself. Believe me, I know. It's a joy when you're around people that say, man, you did that? That's awesome. You went for that? Wow. How'd you do that? Wow. Did people tell you couldn't do it? Yeah, but you did it anyways. You bet. That's how I want you to think. And that's how I want you to be around. And that's how I want you to develop that positive psychology, that mindset that will make a difference. It will make a difference, I promise you. Every single time. It'll be the difference between you being a success and you being a failure. And you're not a failure. Failure is just something that happens. It's not who you are. Never be afraid of it. All right, guys. I appreciate you. This is Coach Arnie. It's another health, love, and life show. And don't forget to check me out, social media. Don't forget to follow Cece on YouTube at goingsolomedia.com and check out the cool videos. And if you have any questions, please give me a holler. I'd love to talk to you about anything about life and health and love. Talk to you guys later. This is Coach Arnie. Enjoy the rest of your week.